College Basketball Show. Back from our winter break hiatus here. It's good to be back in the studio with CJ. CJ, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Zach. A lot of great college basketball, especially over the past few days. Very excited to talk about it, even though this is not going to be longer than 40 minutes.
Yeah, at the start of our winter break, it was a little slow, so we figured we wouldn't have to do a show. And now, with this week really picking up with huge upsets, we figured we should come in and do a quick show for you guys. So, I mean, some of the first games in the beginning of the break, CJ, were you able to go to the game or not?
I wasn't able to go to the first game that we want to talk about, which is that Seton Hall Nova game, which Nova won. But I was able to go to the second game, which I think was a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah, probably. So, you can take it away.
Which was the Seton Hall versus UConn game in Newark on January 8th, in which the Hall pulled out a 90-87 win in overtime with both of their guys back, Tyree Samuel and Ike Obiagu, who they were missing for that Villanova game. But in this one, Zach, really close all the way through. Seton Hall really had to pick it up in the second half, and to really kickstart that was Kadari Richmond, who came off the bench. The transfer from Syracuse dropped 17 straight points in a row back-to-back possessions. It was an incredible run. He finished with 29 points. Bryce Aiken kind of coming up in the back with 22 of his own. So just that duo for the Pirates really kind of sealed the deal, especially Aiken late in game, hitting some crucial free throws. But this Huskies team didn't back down at all. Guys like R.J. Cole and Akuka Cook played some pretty quality minutes for the Huskies and had a pretty big impact as well. So this was a huge win for the Pirates. Probably one of their best team games overall, one of their best defensive games, but this was also just a huge shootout as well. UConn shooting 61% from deep, and Seton Hall shooting 40%, and then field goals just UConn shooting 47%, Seton Hall 54%. But in an avenue that Seton Hall has really been getting dominated on over these past few weeks, Zach, the boards.
Right.
So you got UConn 40 rebounds, Seton Hall 25. So that's going to be something that they're going to need to pick up come late in Big East play.
Yeah, the issue is that neither of their big men are great, like, board getters. I mean, Ike Obiagu is a ridiculously good shot blocker, but as we've joked about in the past, the dude's got bricks for hands. And for Tyree Samuel, he's able to play well in the post from what I remember, but I mean, he's not super great like on the boards too. But I mean, that's definitely something you're going to have to fix in the Big East. If you're going to play a team like Providence in the Big East tournament, you can have a guy like Nate Watson all up in the boards. Like, that's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and even in this one, Adama Sanogo for the Huskies, 16 points, 16 rebounds. So you can't really be getting beat by one entire guy.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely one of the better big men in the Big East too. I mean, really underrated. He had a fantastic game against Auburn weeks and weeks ago, but I mean, that was such a fun game to watch. That like double overtime thriller, that one was a ton of fun. And then we can get into some of the games this week. I mean, we had a crazy day on Tuesday where, starting off, we watched the Texas Tech Baylor game in which Baylor was up big at half. Texas Tech starts to chip away, and then by the second half, they were able to pull one out barely, 65-62 against at the time the last undefeated team. So, what did you see from that game?
Well, really, Zach, it just showed like the courage of this Texas Tech team. We all know Big East, a lot of strong defensive teams, strong physical teams. And Texas Tech is just the epitome of that. I think there's 3 teams in the Big 12 like that, and Texas Tech is one of them. They've really showed their grit, especially without Terrence Shannon, who's arguably one of the premier players in the Big 12. They did get McCullough back off of, I think, injury.
And he was much needed, too.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And against a big, physical, strong team like Baylor, they needed every ounce of that that they could get. But I think where it really kind of turned is just towards the end of the game, they started taking a lot better shots. And once they had the momentum, they started going for it. And they were just on a roll pretty much, and pretty much forcing Baylor to jack up bad shots on some key possessions. So just great defensively.
Adonis Arms looked really good to me for the Red Raiders, and over the past, he's like been one of their premier leaders without Obenor or without McCullough and Shannon. Him and, as we mentioned, Obenor as well. He dropped 13 in this one. I mean, both of those guys looked spectacular to me. They really shone for me there.
Yeah, and I mean, McCullough coming off the bench, playing 31 points in his first game back, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. He was a huge contributor. But then, I mean, even on the Baylor side, they got off to that hot start, but then they kind of slowed down. I mean, James Akinjo was a name that kind of rang early in the season, and you saw him in this one. He kind of almost looked shocked once they started losing momentum and falling behind, kind of chucking up some bad shots. Matthew Meyer, one of those guys that is one of the more underrated players in the nation.
Definitely, yeah.
Just a great shooter, great defender. He's very tall.
Yeah, he can guard. He can guard like all 5 positions, and he's typically a really good shooter. But in this one, he only shot 3 for 10 out of field goals and went 0 for 3 from beyond the arc. I mean, clearly he didn't show up in this game, and it cost them.
Yeah, he also missed 3 free throws as well. So that's the difference between a tie, going to overtime, and taking a heavy loss like this. But yeah, we were talking about that during the game, how Baylor still has that ability to guard 1 through 5. It's just tonight wasn't their night, and Texas Tech just looked like they wanted it more, to be honest.
Yeah, that's exactly what it came down to me. I mean, Baylor just couldn't hit shots in the second half, and frankly, that's just what cost them. So, moving on to the next one we're going to talk about quickly, Miami versus Duke was really a shocker to me, considering how weak the ACC is this season. But that doesn't stop the Hurricanes from coming into Cameron Indoor and shocking the college basketball world.
Yeah, and I guess the Hurricanes must have heard what we said at the start of the year, because they've been on a tear recently. 13-3 up to that point, 5-0 in conference play, which doesn't mean a lot because they are in the ACC. But the fact that they were able to pull this one out by a measly 2 points is just incredible. Some guys I won't mention: Isaiah Wong, recent. He's a sophomore this year.
Local guy, Bonner grad.
Did go to Bonner. St. Joe's plays Bonner tomorrow. Should be a good game. But he had 15, had 4 rebounds and 2 steals in this one. So just really able to put it on there. And I mean, for the Duke side, obviously, you got Paolo Banchero. He dropped 20 in this one, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. But Wendell Moore Jr. continues to be a dark horse candidate for the Jerry West Award. No, not Jerry West Award. Who's small forward?
I forget, to be honest. I'm not good with the award names, but best small forward in the
nation.
Yeah, there you go.
With 12 points and 12 rebounds of his own to go along with 7 assists, which he's been incredibly impressive over these past few weeks. Someone I've never really kept my eye on, but I might have to.
Yeah, I mean, in the couple of Duke games that I've watched this season, he's always making big plays, and not only as like a scorer, but as a facilitator as well. As you mentioned, those 7 assists, and he led the team in boards despite being sort of on the smaller side. I mean, the center Mark Williams only had 7 boards compared to Moore's 12. So I mean, that certainly says something to me. And for the Hurricanes too, Charlie Moore leading the team in points. He also had 7 steals, which is a ridiculous amount. I mean, and if you're Duke, you can't be turning the ball over that many times to any team. I mean, they had 17 turnovers compared to Miami's 5. So that's what says it to me, is that Miami was able to lock down on defense and and just force Duke to make mistakes, and that's what cost them.
This Duke team right now kind of reminds me of, to make an NFL comparison, I believe it's 2018 Steelers. It was the last year they had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell when they lost to, or no, that was 2016 when they lost to Jacksonville.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. But anyways, they have so much talent, and it was always them playing down to their competition. I think this was an example of Duke trying to play down to their competition.
Right.
Because even though they have all the talent in the world, they just need to have that focus, and they need to have that edge to them that they won't let anyone roll over. That they won't roll over for anyone.
That's what happens when you have a young team. But in years past, Coach Krzyzewski's gotten a better handle on that, and I'm kind of curious what's different this time. Maybe it's just like the guys themselves, but it's certainly something's got to change. I mean, if you're losing to a team like Miami, who, I mean, isn't really a great team. They did get votes in this week's poll just because of this win. I gotta check. They got 65 votes. They were the third out. So, I mean, that's just because they were able to beat Duke. I mean, I'm not sure they've gotten any votes in the last couple AP polls. So, I mean, that's certainly something that's going to have to change.
Yeah, and this Miami team is really on the come up right now. They didn't really play anyone that good in the preseason, which is why they aren't really getting too many votes. I mean, they barely edged out Syracuse in a win. So, and they lost to Alabama pretty early in the season and UCF. So, not some quality losses there, but they are on the come up. They are really getting things hot right now. I mean, 5-0 in conference play in the ACC is really good. So, it might get a pretty high bid in the NCAA tournament, but this is just a great win to see them build off of.
Are they still 5-0 in conference play though? They just lost to
Florida
they
State
literally just
by
lost.
one.
They literally just lost to Florida State the game after. So I mean that tells me what kind of team the Hurricanes are. But
They got a revenge game, 22nd against Florida State.
So that'll be fun to watch. And then our last game we're going to cover before we just talk about some of the teams in the AP poll. Stanford upsetting USC 75-69, and USC is a team that I hadn't really looked at too much before this game. And when I saw that they were like so high in the AP poll, I was kind of shocked. And for good reason. It's because they haven't really had any quality wins, but they were undefeated up to this point. So, I mean, like when your best win is against like San Diego State, then you know something's wrong. Like Georgia Tech, like they haven't even played anybody. A couple of games got canceled and postponed. Like some big games that were coming up. Oklahoma State, Arizona, all got canceled or postponed. And then the Stanford game originally got postponed, and then finally they played it, and they played it in an empty stadium too, which is certainly something of note. But I mean, Stanford literally just picked them apart. They were able to stay close the whole time. They didn't let USC get away from them, and then by the end of the game, they were able to rally back and just put a couple extra points in the can.
Yeah, and really just being able to close that out. I mean, you got two guys that scored 21 points each, Spencer Jones and Ingram. So just two massive scorers there for the Cardinals, which is something that you really need against a real top-tier team like the Trojans. But as you said, they didn't really play anyone. I guess the only quality win you could say was maybe Cal, and that's in their own conference.
Yeah.
And Cal even is like middle of the pack in the Pac-12 most years.
If that, yeah. But I mean, for me, it's pretty much seemed consensus that Isaiah Mobley's been their best player. He dropped 16 in this one, and 7 rebounds, 5 assists. But like, I mean, he certainly did his part, but not too much help. Ellis got himself 14, and Goodwin got himself 11. But I mean, they just weren't able to come down with it towards the end, and they couldn't stop Harrison Ingram at all, or what was his name? Spencer Jones either. I mean, both of them were dynamic. I mean, they could hit shots from anywhere. I saw them. They were able to be vertical. Both of them are guard. Oh no, both of them are not guards. Both of them. I mean, they were able to shoot. Both of them shot pretty well from 3. Jones went 3 for 8. Ingram went 3 for 5, and overall, I mean, they both shot really well. They were able to get vertical. They were able to get like really good layup buckets, and they were able to pull up from mid-range wherever they want. I saw a couple of really nice shots from the elbow, and they were able to shoot from deep. I mean, there was literally nowhere they couldn't hit from.
Yeah. Good quality Stanford team that's kind of going under the radar right now. I mean, the entire Pac-12 is really going under the radar, and for good reason, because you got teams like USC that really overrated at this point in the season. UCLA, let's not forget what they did last year and what they did at the start of the year again in the preseason against some pretty high-quality opponents, but I don't think they're worth anything higher than a 4 in their AP poll.
Mm-hmm.
But still solid teams. I think Stanford has a chance at this point in the season to maybe make a bid for the tournament.
I think they do too. I mean, so their losses are against a number 17 Texas, unranked Colorado, unranked Santa Clara at the beginning of the season, and number 9 Baylor. So I mean, a couple quality losses there. And at 9-4, currently 5th in the Pac-12. I mean, if they keep up the level of play, they were able to beat up on some of these teams. If they're able to beat Wazoo, Washington, Arizona State, because I don't really think they have too much of a chance against Arizona, to be honest. But
that should be a good game, though.
It should be a good game, I think. But if they're able to beat up on some of these lower teams in the Pac-12, I wouldn't be surprised if they could perhaps come out third in the conference. No, definitely not third. Like fourth or fifth in the conference where they're at right now. I think fourth in the conference would be able to get them a bid.
Yeah, definitely. You never know what happens in the conference tournaments. I mean, we saw last year Georgetown in the Big East make a run,
True.
upsetting Villanova in this conference championship. So that was how they got their bid, and then they came into the tournament as a dark horse, getting kicked in the first round. So it was a run, but I think Stanford still has that potential.
I think they do too. So shifting over now just to this week's AP poll, just to like go over some of the stuff that's been happening. So at the top, Baylor lost. So I don't really see them falling outside the top 5 though. I mean, they're still a really good team, and they're your favorite to repeat.
Yeah, I think Baylor's still going to stay number 1, because at this point in the season, it's a loss, yes, but it's a quality loss to another top 25 opponent.
And they could jump it as far as top. Texas Tech.
Texas Tech is going to jump so much.
19, and a bunch of teams lost, so I think they can jump to like 12 or 13.
And depending what Ohio State and Wisconsin do tonight, that could also affect it.
It's definitely going to, because they're going to be able to jump over whoever loses that game for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might be able to jump over Nova too, but as we know, the AP poll loves their Villanova, so we'll never really know. But moving on from Baylor, Gonzaga at number 2, UCLA at number 3. My case is that Gonzaga moves up to number 1. I think number 4 Auburn jumps UCLA with their win against Alabama.
Oh yeah, and that was a good win too.
Yeah, I mean they've been on a tear.
At Alabama in Tuscaloosa, the Iron Bowl of basketball.
Yeah. They looked really good. Jabari Smith is making a really good case for an All-American this year. He's got good guys surrounding him. Keon Johnson is the first name that comes to mind. I mean, he's so explosive and energetic on both sides of the ball. I mean, he's someone that I love watching play. And he was crazy during that UConn game we mentioned before as well. So then USC at 5. Arizona will jump them for sure at 6.
Mm-hmm.
Purdue at number 7. Duke is at 8. This was after their loss against Miami, though. So they're still in the top 10 after that loss.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think they still have the talent to stay in the top 10.
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree with that, Ted?
I didn't know what team you're talking about. What team?
Duke.
Oh, Duke? No, they're still good. I mean, they lost to Miami, but no team in college basketball is undefeated right now, so.
True.
Especially Colorado State, who just got blown out by San Diego State, bro.
That was really funny.
30 points.
30 points.
Go
Brutal.
Aztecs.
And then Kansas at number 9.
They should jump.
That was also keeping in mind their loss to Oklahoma, I believe.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure they lost 2. Didn't they lose yesterday? Didn't they lose? Not yesterday.
No, they didn't. No, they didn't lose this week. I don't think. I'll double check. But
Maybe I don't think it was this. They did lose to Oklahoma though.
yeah, that was a tough loss. Oklahoma lost a lot of players too.
And then Michigan State at number 10 is fantastic. I mean, I'm a huge Sparty fan, and I did not imagine them being as good as they are this season.
Yeah.
After their first loss, I was shocked that they would be able to come down with it. And Joey Hauser finally did something and was able to secure the game against Minnesota for them this week. So I see them making a jump.
Yeah, and Max Christie is really turning into the player that they thought that he was going to be at the start of the year.
Yeah, he looked really good in that game.
Yeah,
I was
16,
really happy.
5, and 4. So
yeah,
he's looking dangerous.
Great. Houston at 11. I mean, they're probably going to stay around that range because they're playing in the American, and literally no other team is good in the American.
And they don't have Saucer anymore.
Don't they? Did he get hurt?
Yeah, he's out for the season.
Oh, so that maybe they'll fall because that's a really tough loss. I didn't even know that happened. LSU at number 12. They're going to jump soon because LSU is dangerous.
They're due for one.
Who's their? Let's take a look. Who's their next really big game?
They jumped 9 spots. So they were 21 last week, and they jumped 9 spots. And they just beat Who did they just beat? Was it Texas?
I think they beat.
It was another.
Did they get a quality win already?
They did.
No, they beat Tennessee. They lost, so their only losses to Auburn number 11 Auburn this season.
Yeah, they beat Kentucky and Tennessee, so those are massive wins.
They got Bama and then Tennessee again. Within.
Dude, the SEC is going off this year.
within the next couple of days, within like the next 10 days, they have Bama, or really it's in a 3-day span. They have Arkansas the 15th, Bama the 19th, and Tennessee the 22nd. So those are going to be the games that make them.
Although Arkansas has been kind of plummeting.
Oh, I meant the latter. Arkansas has been really bad since they lost to Oklahoma. That was not great, but I still think they're going to be a quality team. And then we got Wisconsin.
Oh.
Johnny Davis is just so good at basketball. End of story. I think
Roll credits.
I think they lose tonight though.
Ooh. Hey, save it.
Who they playing?
They play
Hey,
Ohio
we'll
State.
talk about that later.
We'll see
Hold
the
it.
clip. All right.
We can talk about it. I think we're
You
going
wanna talk about it now?
We can talk about it now. We got like 5 minutes.
All right, bet. Well, we got plenty of time.
I'm trying to get out of here by 4. It's
All
because
right.
the 4:30 train.
Yeah, I know. 4:30 train.
So with that, before I go off on a tirade on why Villanova shouldn't be in the top 15,
Take the L.
They're so bad.
Wisconsin and Ohio State playing tonight.
It's gonna be
Biggest game tonight. You got Johnny Davis and the Badgers taking on EJ Liddell and the Ohio State Buckeyes. I think Ohio State takes this one. I'm gonna be honest.
I think they do too.
I have been huge on Ohio State all year. I think EJ Liddell is the best forward, or one of, if not the best forward in college basketball right now. He's just so versatile. Can play both sides of the floor. He's so dangerous to match up to as well.
Oh, he's a matchup nightmare. He shot 34 on Northwestern the other day.
Oh.
Steve's taking all the L's today.
Not much.
I
know Chris Collins, bro. He's a G.
Jamari Wheeler is going to be such a great matchup for Davis, I think.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the matchup to watch tonight, and I think Wheeler being a top 10 Big Ten defender at or he was a first team All Big Ten defender at Penn State. So I think he can get it done. I think he can get it done relatively. Like obviously Johnny Davis is going to do his thing because he's like projected top 5 pick right now.
Yeah.
But I think that he can get it done. I'm really excited to watch this game.
It's gonna be fun. I do want to mention one other game though, because I think it's gonna be the biggest sleeper game of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And no pun intended, because it's at 11 o'clock at night. It's BYU Gonzaga. Got the Cougars coming in. They've been pretty hot so far. They only have 2 losses on the season. And then obviously you're playing a Gonzaga team that is kind of hoping to face no competition in the West Coast Conference, but at the start of the year, it kind of looked like they were going to put 4 teams in the tournament this year, BYU being one of the more important ones so far. They're undefeated in conference play.
Were they ranked at the beginning of the season? Or was that... I'm not sure.
I can see. Preseason... I do think they were. I think they were like 24, 25.
They might have been ranked. I think they were ranked at some point during the season. Maybe
yeah,
I'm
that sounds
wrong.
right. They got votes at the start of the preseason.
That works, yeah.
Yeah, so... Yeah, BYU, one of the more underrated teams in this nation right now. They have their quality wins right now off of San Diego State, Oregon, Utah, and then...
They beat Oregon. That was their big win.
Yeah.
That's what got them votes. They have 2 votes in this week's AP poll.
Yeah, they're doing good. They do have some key losses, though. Creighton and Vanderbilt, with Scottie Pippen Jr. So those are definitely a little bit of a scuff on their record, but I think this will be a good game. 11 p.m. ESPN 2. I'm not staying up for that. I need to sleep.
No way, yeah. But it'll be a fun game to look back to. Just check the box scores and see how everybody did. But that'll do it here from us at the WSJP College Basketball Show. Thanks to Gavin for coming in clutch, producing. Hi, Ted.
Hi, I'm just here.
All right.
No one likes you, Ted.
As for...
Except the Villanova.
And then hopefully, probably next week, we'll be able to get a longer show out once we get some more games under our belt. So with that, as for CJ Weeps, I'm Zach Reagan. Thank you all for tuning in.